I woke up in the middle of the night and watched as the ship pulled back into Miami. Waking up, I had an ambivalent feeling. While I had had a great time on the cruise, part of me was content with the ride coming to an end, so I began making the preparations to check out of my room. Once I had packed up all my stuff, I sat and took in the energy of the room of which I had had so much fun. I was a bit early to my checkout time and decided to grab a coffee. Once the boarding process was underway, though, it went relatively smoothly and I quickly found myself in the pickup drop-off area. I had made arrangements for a hotel to stay overnight in South Beach since I thought it'd be too hard to coordinate the landing of the ship and a flight back. There were lots of people trying to get Ubers and I ended up waiting for 2 hours for an available car. I made it to the hotel though, and after dropping off my stuff, decided to go for a walk. The wind was brutal and I could barely keep my hat on. I was just walking randomly, but ultimately came upon the beach. It was a really stunning sight. I thought I'd take a walk along the shoreline and soak in the vibes and visuals that I can't get back in Minnesota. As I walked, though, my mind began to reflect on the experience of the cruise. I thought that maybe I'd end up feeling the same way this time as I did last time. A feeling that all of this would have been better with another person to share it with. Something had changed, though, and that wasn't quite my mindset anymore. Thinking back, my mindset was different, even from the onset. This was going to be a trip that I did for me, a trip of self-love. But what I had learned was that self-love takes work. It's work to try to embrace every situation in a world filled with tragedy, confusion, and hostility. But ultimately, you put in that work because you believe yourself to be worth it. And that's what I did. I felt good about my conclusion, and after doing some more walking, I decided to grab something to eat. After that, I decided to do some more walking. I passed by this rainbow turd, which I guess is art, maybe. Who knows? Looked like a giant version of my pet rock in elementary school. It turned out to be a lovely city, and I enjoyed the walk immensely. It made me very tired, though, and I had an early flight, so upon returning to the hotel, I went straight to bed. When I woke up and started gathering my things, the thoughts I had on the beach returned. I thought about my loved ones back home. In fact, the very term loved ones intrigued me. As I walked through the airport, I thought hard about it. I learned that self-love requires work. But does that mean then that all love does? It was an interesting question to ponder. I knew I didn't want my conclusion to be the same as the last trips, and part of me knew that it couldn't. Thinking back on the relaxing, the dinners, the people, and the new experiences, I knew all of that couldn't just lead to the conclusion that I'm going on these trips alone because nobody else thinks I'm worth going with. And as I landed and walked through the airport, I thought back to the concept of loved ones, how it implies something mutual. And it's inherently mutual. And if it's inherently mutual, then the ones I considered loved ones must also consider me a loved one. And if love requires work, then those loved ones must also be putting in the work to love me because they think I'm worth it. And as long as I know that there are those who think that I'm worth the work it takes to love, then whether they're right next to me or thousands of miles away, I'm not really ever alone. And that's a pretty cool realization.